All right, so buckle up, everyone, because today we are diving into something truly mind-boggling.
Oh, I love it when you say that.
I know you do. We're talking about NEOM,
Mm.
right? This planned megacity in Saudi Arabia, and they are really aiming for it to be like the blueprint for future living.
Sounds ambitious.
It is, it is.
And a bit like sci-fi, no.
Definitely gives off those vibes.
Yeah.
But before we get carried away, we've actually gone through a ton of research on this. So we've got academic articles, promotional videos,
Of course, gotta have those.
news reports, and even had a peek at Wikipedia because, hey, why not?
Let's start somewhere.
Exactly. So our mission today is to really cut through all the hype, all the noise surrounding this project and get to the core of what NEOM is really all about. What do you say? You ready to dive in?
Let's do it. It's a fascinating case study for sure. A city built from scratch.
From scratch.
In the middle of the desert with, well, technology that sounds straight out of science fiction.
It really does.
The ambition is staggering.
Okay, so let's start with that ambition then.
Yeah.
What exactly does Saudi Arabia envision for NEOM? Like, what's the big picture?
Well, think technological utopia.
Okay, I'm listening.
Imagine a city running entirely on renewable energy. Robots handling, like, all the everyday tasks, so no more dishes.
Sign me up.
No cars clogging up the streets. And yeah, are you ready for this?
Hit me.
They're even talking about a giant artificial moon to illuminate the night sky.
Wow. So, like, flying cars, glow-in-the-dark beaches they mentioned, right?
Yeah, I saw that.
A dinosaur theme park with robot dinos. It really is a wild mix of futuristic dreams and, well, some things we need to unpack a bit.
Definitely. And it's important to remember that behind all the dazzling visuals,
Yeah.
NEOM is really deeply embedded in Saudi Arabia's strategic goals. This isn't just about building a cool city. It's a key part of their Vision 2030 plan.
Vision 2030, right?
To diversify their economy and move away from that reliance on oil.
So it's about economic and political power, too.
Absolutely.
They're pouring billions, no, trillions, actually, of dollars into this, hoping to attract international investment, right? Position themselves as, like, a global leader in technology and innovation.
Exactly. But to really grasp the scale of this project, you need to understand that NEOM isn't just one city.
Oh, really?
It's a network of interconnected regions, each with its own unique focus.
Okay, now we're talking. So break down these regions for us. We've got the line, right?
Right.
170-kilometer long, like linear city, designed to be, what is it, car-free and carbon neutral.
Very ambitious.
It's fascinating how they're planning to build everything around this concept of a 5-minute walk,
Yeah, I read about that.
making daily life incredibly convenient and interconnected.
Then you've got Oxagon,
Yeah.
this massive floating industrial complex shaped, well, like an octagon.
Makes sense.
The focus there is innovation and advanced manufacturing, potentially revolutionizing industries from, renewable energy to biotechnology.
And we can't forget about Trojena, aiming to be the first outdoor skiing resort in the Arabian Peninsula, skiing in the desert.
I know, right?
That's some serious temperature control technology they'll need to, like, pull off.
For sure. Then there's Sindalah, that luxury island development that's already open, actually. High-end hotels, a marina, and a golf course. So, catering to a specific crowd.
Oh, I bet.
And there's even more planned, like regions for wellness retreats, sustainable agriculture, residential communities. It's like they're trying to cover every possible aspect of future living.
It's incredibly ambitious. But is it achievable?
That's the big question.
Building a megacity from scratch in a challenging environment like that, with all this futuristic technology, there have to be challenges, right?
Oh, absolutely. And looking at the research, some experts are expressing, well, skepticism about NEOM's feasibility,
Right.
The cost exceeding $1.5 trillion.
Or astronomical.
Raises some eyebrows, yeah.
And despite their, like, aggressive timelines, haven't there already been delays? I read an article about issues with infrastructure and sourcing materials.
Yes, several actually, which, isn't surprising given the sheer complexity of the project.
Yeah.
But beyond the logistical and financial hurdles, there are, well, some darker aspects we need to address.
Okay, now this is where things get interesting and troubling, perhaps.
Right. It seems like building the city of the future often comes at the expense of the people living in the present.
Sadly, that's often the case, isn't it?
It is. There have been reports of forced evictions of local tribes to clear the land for the city,
Oh, wow.
leading to protests and clashes with authorities.
It's a tough situation.
It is. And one article I read really stuck with me. It detailed the tragic death of an activist, Abdul Rahim al-Huwaidi. He was shot by Saudi security forces while resisting eviction.
That's awful. It really makes you think about the human cost of these kinds of ambitious projects.
It does. And it raises serious questions about the ethical implications of NEOM's development. And then there are other controversies swirling around, too. Critics are voicing concerns about NEOM's reliance on surveillance technology and,
Yeah.
the implications for privacy in a city that claims to prioritize individual well-being. It seems a bit contradictory.
Yeah, it is a bit of a head scratcher,
Let's just.
because like the idea of data as a currency sounds appealing, on the surface at least. But it does raise questions about, well, who's actually controlling that data
Right.
and how it's being used?
Yeah.
Especially in a city like NEOM, which is, aiming to be super connected and data-driven.
So it makes you wonder, right?
Yeah.
Is this really the best way to build a better future? Are we, I don't know, are we sacrificing individual liberties and displacing communities all in the name of progress?
That's the core question we're wrestling with here. Like, is NEOM a utopia or is it a dystopia?
That's a big question. It is. On the one hand, you've got this incredible ambition, right, to create a sustainable, technologically advanced city that, who knows, could potentially solve some of the world's, most pressing problems.
That's the dream.
But on the other hand, you have these ethical concerns about human rights, surveillance, the potential for social inequality.
And what about the people who are building NEO, like the workers, the engineers, the designers? What's their experience like?
Well, that's another layer we need to peel back, right?
Mm.
There have been some reports suggesting, well, let's just say a toxic work environment
Oh, no.
within NEOM,
Really?
including allegations of abusive management practices.
Wow. I thought this was supposed to be like, a showcase for innovation and progress, not exploitation.
That's the irony, isn't it? We have stories, from former employees describing intense pressure, fear of speaking out, a real culture of silence.
Can you give us some specifics? Like what kinds of things were happening behind the scenes?
Well, one source I read, they described the CEO, Nadmi Al-Nasser, as having how do I put this? Incredibly demanding and demeaning management style,
Yeah.
known to berate and belittle employees, just creating this overall climate of fear and anxiety.
That's awful. I mean, it seems like a complete contradiction to like the utopian image they're trying to project to the world.
It does, doesn't it? It raises questions about, well, the ethical foundation of the whole project. Can you really build a city of the future, on a foundation of fear and exploitation?
Doesn't seem like a sustainable model to me.
No.
But despite all these controversies, NEOM is still full steam ahead, right? They're attracting investors, forming partnerships
International partnership.
with companies like Mercedes, McLaren Racing, big names.
Big names for sure. And these partnerships raise another interesting angle to consider. NEOM's potential role in regional politics.
Oh, right. One article mentioned that it could actually play a role in improving Saudi-Israeli relations.
Exactly. Officially, the two countries don't have diplomatic ties.
Right.
But there's speculation that NEOM could be a testing ground for closer collaboration, particularly in areas like technology and renewable energy.
That would be huge, a real geopolitical shift. Imagine the possibilities if those two countries were, like, openly working together.
It's definitely a complex issue, though. Any move towards, normalization would likely face resistance. And of course, the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict adds another layer of complexity to it all.
So NEOM's not just a city, right?
Right.
It's like a potential catalyst for reshaping political alliances in the whole region.
It is. It's fascinating, to
Yeah.
see how these large-scale projects can have ripple effects, far beyond their intended scope, impacting everything, global economics to, international relations. It's a lot to think about.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. Explored the grand vision, the tech marvels, the challenges, the controversies. What does it all mean for our listeners? What are the key takeaways, would you say?
Well, I think the most important thing to understand is that NEOM is, it's a project full of contradictions, right? It's a tug of war between utopian ideals and, some very real and very troubling concerns.
It's almost like a microcosm of the challenges facing the world today. Climate change, technological advancement, social inequality, the ethical implications of AI. It's like NEOM embodies all of these tensions just in a very concentrated way.
Precisely. And it forces us to confront some uncomfortable questions about the future we're creating.
Like, are we headed towards a a technological utopia where problems are solved through, innovation and collaboration?
Right.
Or are we, I don't know, sleepwalking into a dystopian future where the wealthy elite control everything and the environment is just sacrificed for profit?
Those are questions each listener needs to grapple with, I think, individually. But the key is to be aware of the complexities, to look beyond the shiny facade, to critically evaluate the potential consequences of such ambitious projects.
Yeah, it's a real balancing act, isn't it?
It is.
It's easy to get swept up in all of it,
Or we need.
the futuristic vision, the flying cars, the robot dinosaurs, but we really can't ignore the human cost, the environmental impact, and the potential for, well, for things to go wrong, unintended consequences and all that.
Absolutely. And we have to keep asking those critical questions, like who really benefits from projects like this? Who bears the cost? And is this really, truly a sustainable model for the future?
Which brings us back to that original question.
Hmm.
Is NEOM a genuine attempt to build a better future? Or is it more about, I don't know, power, ambition, control?
The trillion-dollar question, right.
It is.
And unfortunately, it's not one we can definitively answer in our deep dive today, but hopefully we've given our listeners enough information and context to start forming their own conclusions.
So what does all this mean for you, dear listener? We've thrown a lot of information your way, but, well, this isn't just about a city in the desert, right?
Mm.
It's about the choices we make as a society and the kind of future, the kind of world we really want to create.
What I find so fascinating is that NEOM, it forces us to confront these really big questions, like head on. What kind of world do we want to live in? What are we actually willing to sacrifice to achieve progress? And, well, what role do we as individuals play in shaping that future?
It makes you think, are we just going to embrace all these, grand technological solutions
Yeah.
without even considering the potential downsides? Or are we going to demand a more, I don't know, a more equitable and sustainable approach, one
Yeah.
that prioritizes human well-being and environmental responsibility?
Tough questions, and there are no easy answers, right? But I think that's the whole point of doing a deep dive like this.
Okay.
It's about getting you thinking, questioning, exploring different perspectives.
We're not here to, tell you what to think, but to give you the knowledge and insights you need to form your own, well, informed opinions. So as we wrap up our deep dive into NEOM today, we want to leave you with one final thought-provoking question.
Let's hear it.
Okay, so just imagine that NEOM succeeds in achieving all of its most ambitious goals, a fully sustainable, technologically advanced city. What implications would that have for the rest of the world?
That's a great question.
Would it spark a global race to build similar mega cities, each trying to, I don't know, outdo the other with technological marvels? Or would it serve as a cautionary tale, highlighting the potential pitfalls of such grand endeavors,
Yeah.
and prompting us to seek more, balanced and humane solutions?
I guess only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, the future is being written right now. And projects like NEOM, they're a powerful reminder that we all have a stake in how that story unfolds.
Well said. And on that note, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into NEOM. We hope you learned something new, challenged your assumptions, maybe even had your mind blown a little.
And remember, the conversation doesn't have to end here. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the topics that matter to you.